All right, now we are ready to roll. So, oh, I always forget to do this every time. I got to change these things so that I can write because it doesn't default to me writing. So that should work. Let's see. Whoops, there we go. All right, very good. All right, here we go. Everybody ready? Yep. Buckled up, ready to go? Your first geometry lesson. All right, so we are going to talk about undefined terms. Now, usually you talk about definitions. Well, here's definitions right here. These actually are not definitions. It's just it's a verbal or a written description of what they are. They really don't have a definition. It's kind of weird. Seems like we're defining it, but it's not really a definition. So there's three undefined terms. So there's three undefined terms. And I will tell you right now the first question on your quiz and the first question on your test. That's pretty nice, isn't it? Yes? Okay, if I don't hear a response, then I'm not going to tell you the three undefined terms and you're going to have to write them out yourself. All right, not really. All right, here we go. So they are point, line, and plane. Again, there's no formal definition. I'm just going to kind of describe what they are in geometry because we're going to use these a lot, really the whole year. That's why they start with this, because we're going to use this all year long. We're going to talk about points forever. We're going to talk about lines all the time. We'll talk about planes quite a bit, not as much as the other ones. Point and line, we're going to use all the time. All right, so it's super important that you understand what it is. So what is a point? Again, there's no definition, but I'm going to just describe for you what a point does, what it looks like, how to label it, and all that kind of thing. Well, a point doesn't look like anything because it does all three of these. They don't have any width, they don't have any height, they don't have any depth, all right? But it's a place in space. A point is basically just one place, one location, anywhere in space. When I say space, I'm not talking about outer space. Space is like this room. This room is space, okay? Anywhere where you are, there's space. So a point is just a location. But a point, we use a dot to represent the point. So we use a dot, okay, to represent the point. But this point, I could measure it, right? I could zoom up to it, and I could put a ruler up to it, and I can measure how wide it is and how high it is, all right? But a real point doesn't have that. It's so small that it doesn't take up any space whatsoever. All right, but we use a dot to represent where that point is located. Does that make any sense? So the point itself doesn't have doesn't take up any space, but we put a point there, a dot there, I should say. We put a dot just to represent where that point is. There could be a point right here. There could be a point here. There could be a point right on the board. Okay, but if I put a dot on the board, all right, in order for you to see that, it's got to have some width and some height. And it even has a little bit of depth. It actually comes out from the board a little bit. Very, very little bit. It's super thin, all right? But it does come out from the board a little bit. But that's not the point itself. It just represents where the point is located, all right? It's a subtle difference, but that's what it is. We always use a capital letter. We always use a capital letter to represent a point. So if you have a point, we can call it point P. It doesn't always have to be point P. It could be it could be point A, point X, point Q, whatever. All right, but we always use a capital letter to represent a point. Everybody understand that? All right, it's always a capital letter. So that's basically what a point is. Again, it has no length, it's got no thickness, it doesn't take up any space at all, but we put a dot to represent where that point is, and we label it with a P. Now, what is a line? Well, let's do this. That kind of looks like a line. You'd probably say that was a line, but technically that's not a line until...
And the following students please come to guidance: Cambridge Mechanical, Grace Fleming, Blessing Milwaukee, Logan Hill, Gideon Samuel.
So why does that work now, but the whole announcement thing doesn't work? That's weird, isn't it? Because I can't get announcements or the bell doesn't ring in here. I don't know. Maybe they fixed it. I hope. All right, anyway, what's a line? That right there is not a line. A line keeps on going forever and ever. So what do we put at the ends of them? Arrows. Put arrows to represent that it keeps on going. When I say forever and ever, let's use more of a math kind of a word. If it goes forever, where is it going to? Infinity and what? Beyond, right? There you go. All right. So infinity, and you can't really go beyond infinity because infinity is beyond. All right. It just keeps on going. All right. There is no place where, oh, finally, I got there. I got to infinity. Nope. You got to keep on going. All right. That's infinity. So you can go infinity in all kinds of directions. A line does not have to be horizontal like this. I mean, you could have a line that's slanted like that. Okay. But it has to be straight. Now, we hardly ever say straight line because a line in and of itself is straight. So if I had something like this, that is not a line because it's got a curve to it, all right? It's got to be completely straight. It could go straight up and down, straight across. It could go diagonally, right? It could come, right, out from the wall, right? You could have a line that goes like this. You could have a line that goes like this. If you had arrows on the ends, these aren't very straight, but you get the idea. Or you could have a line that, boom, goes like that. We're going to talk about that in a second with the plane. Everybody with me on that? It's pretty easy. So a line's basically made up of a whole bunch of different points all lined up, nice and straight. Okay? Nice and straight. So that's what a line is. We label a line. We could label a line several different ways. You could label this line just with a lowercase letter, just one lowercase letter. And you'd probably put it above or below. It doesn't really matter. You could put it above or below one of those arrows. You would rarely put the lowercase letter like in the middle of the line or over here. Usually right here. So I could call this A. That's a lowercase a. So I could call this what? Line A. That's as simple as that. All right. There's other ways to label the line. You could put a point on this line and another point on this line. Now, how do we write points? We put a dot, but how do we label the point? With a what kind of a letter? A capital letter. So line is made up of a whole bunch of different points, an infinite number of points. But I picked that point and that point, so I could put a capital letter A here, a capital letter B. So I don't call this diagonal one, I don't call it line A. I don't call it line B. What do you think I'm going to call it? Line AB. Very good. Line AB. Or I could go the other way. It doesn't matter which direction I go. I don't have to go in alphabetical order. I could call it line AB, or I could call it, what do you think? BA. Line BA. That's right. But we always say, put the word line in front of it, okay? So I'd say line AB or line BA. Let's write that down. So I could say, I'll put it in quotation marks, right? This is what I would say. I would say line AB, or I could say, let's lift that up a little bit, or I could say line BA. All right. Let's throw something else in the mix here a little bit. Let's put a C in here. So I'll put another dot. It doesn't have to be between, it doesn't make any difference, but I'll put a C right there. So now I got a line where I know 3 points. How many points does any line have on it? An infinite number of points, okay? So does this mean this line right here only has 3 points on it? No. I've only labeled 3 of the points that are on it. Do you see the difference? There's an infinite number of points, but I've only labeled 3 of them. So if I've labeled 3 points, I got to call this line something. I could still call it line AB, even though I got that C in there. Okay, I don't have to include the C. Okay, I could call it line BA again. Or I got some other ways to call it. As long as I just pick any 2 points that are on that line, doesn't matter what order I put them in, doesn't matter which 2 points that I pick. All right, so what else do you think I could call this thing? Line what? Line CA. Good, that's another way. I could call this line CA, or what else? Line, say it again? C. Well, we would call it line CA. What's another way I could call this? I could call it line BC. I could call it line AC. Any combination of just 2. Don't use all 3. Don't call it line ACB, okay? Because that's 3 points. How many points do we use to name a line? 2, okay? Just 2 points. So any combination of A, C, and B, you could call this. Now, do you see how I put the word line right here? Put it in quotation marks because that's what we say. But here's a better way to write it. All right, you're going to be doing this all year long, okay, this line stuff. So this is good that we start off with this. So what if I wanted to call it line AB? Instead of putting the word line in front of it, it's kind of a waste of time. We put a little line symbol over top. But remember, a line keeps on going, doesn't it? In both directions. So I put an arrow. So if all I saw was this, how would I say that? Line AB. Exactly right. That's what I would say. It's line AB. It's got arrows on both ends. It's got 2 capital letters. That's a line. I know for a fact that that's a line. Okay? Doesn't have a starting or stopping point. It keeps on going in both directions. Make sense? Let's do every combination that we could do. So I could go line AB, or I could go line what? BA. Right? And put the line symbol over top of it. Now, if all you do is just put a line like this over top of it without the arrows, that means something different. I don't even think we're getting to that today. We are not. All right, but that means something different. So don't just put a line, put the line with the arrows, all right? And that means line AB, line BA. Let's do that. Put the C in there. I could call it line what? AC. I could call it line CA, right? I could call it line, what else? What other options do I have? Yeah, I could call it BC. Put the line symbol with the arrows. And what else? I got one more, line CB. I don't think there's any other options, are there? Yep, I think we did them all right? So it's kind of crazy. It's one line. It's all the same line, but you could call it 6 different things, all right? It's kind of strange, but that's what we can do. Now, if all you had was this, there's only one way to name that line. What would you name it? Line A, all right? And that's a lowercase. This lowercase a does not represent a point on the line, all right? It's just the name of the line. It's just a lowercase letter. I could have put it over here. I could have put the A right there. I could have put it here. I could have put it here. Anywhere on the end, if you put a lowercase letter, that means it's line A, all right? It doesn't mean that's a point on a line. We haven't shown any points on that line right there, but that's what we would call it. Are we good? Yes, sir.
So if the line still had points on it, will it just still be lowercase a?
Yes, if they weren't labeled. Actually, let's do this. Let's put, yep, you could. It's a good question. So if I went X, Y, and Z, they're all capital letters. If I put those points on there, I could still call that line A if I wanted to. Do you see that? Right? I could just call it line A. Now, but I got other options now, don't I? Because I got all these points on that line. So I could call it, let's go through them. I could call it line what? XY, YX, XZ, ZX, YZ, ZY, right? There's a bunch of ways, 7 different ways I could have named that line right there, all right? Here's what I would normally do. If it was me, and if I was going to name this line right here, the first one we were dealing with, I would probably just call this line AB, all right? Doesn't mean it's the best way, doesn't mean it's the only way. It's just probably what I would do, all right? I'd probably start with the N1 and this N1 right here, put them together, and I'd call it line AB. But any of those other ones are perfectly acceptable. Oh, you do? What do you play? Volleyball. Okay. Where are you playing? Do you know where you're playing? Oh, it's a home game? Okay, cool. All right, well, good luck. All right, I think that's enough about lines. It's probably, put it in your locker. Yeah, take it with you. And just bring it back tomorrow. Watch the video, all right, on the rest of it, and then you can do the homework tonight, because I probably will give some homework tonight. All right, one more thing on this, which is a plane. It's not an airplane, okay? It kind of looks like, when we show a plane, we usually slant it. All right, where do I go to do that? I think I go, no, don't go to that. Transform, there we go. It's been a long time. It's been several months since I've done this, so I forget what I'm going to use. I should have been using it for years. I should know. There we go. I found it pretty quick. All right, this would represent what we call a plane. If I could grab it, there we go. All right, so that represents a plane. Let's look around the room. There's lots of planes in the room. Just like a line that keeps on going forever and ever, a plane keeps on going forever and ever. But it's basically a whole bunch of lines all lined up, all going in the same direction. I guess you could call it that. I don't know. Again, these don't have definitions. There's no real formal definition. We just describe what these are. So a plane could be like the ceiling, right? The ceiling is flat. Think of being flat, right? That's a ceiling. But this particular ceiling comes to an end right there, doesn't it? Where it hits that wall. So a plane actually keeps on going forever and ever and ever. Keeps going that way, that way, that way, that way. All right? Keeps on going forever. Though the ceiling just represents where that plane is located. Okay? Like my phone right here. It's representing this. See my grandson, any cute? The plane, this phone is representing this flat surface right here. But this phone's got edges to it. A plane doesn't have any edges. Keeps on going. But how in the world are we going to draw that on a piece of paper or on a computer screen? You can't really draw it going forever and ever, can you? So it looks like it has edges, but technically this keeps on going this way, keeps on going this way, this way, this way, this way, this way. Okay, you with me on that? All right, so we just have to use our imagination just a little bit. So that's basically what it is. It's a flat surface made up of a bunch of points extending infinitely in two dimensions. And again, it has no thickness because it's made up of points. Points don't have any thickness. Plane doesn't have any thickness. All right, so let's go to a different color. Black and white's getting old. Let's change some colors. Just like a line, there's a couple ways you could describe a line. Same thing with a plane. All right, you could use a lowercase letter in one of the corners. It doesn't matter which corner. Most of the time we put it in the top left corner. It doesn't make any difference. So I don't know, let's use K. Let's pretend that's a lowercase. It's hard to tell sometimes a lowercase and an uppercase K, but that's a lowercase. We'll make that a little bit bigger. There you go. That's a lowercase K. So I could name this thing. Now it is a plane, so we always put the word plane in front of it. So what would I call this? What? Plane K. That's it. Okay? Plane K. That's what you would call it. Pretty simple. Just like a line where you could put points on the line, you could put points on the plane. So let's put a point right there. We'll call that point F. We'll call this point G right there, and we'll call this point H right there. All right, so there's 3 points. Now, a line, if you want to name it by the points, how many points are you going to use to name the line? 2. On a plane, take a wild guess. 3. That's right. So, I'll tell you what, let me put the mic down. The floor gets further and further away the older you get. So now, let me do this. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, you're not going to be able to see this. I got a ruler, okay? This is a meter stick, actually. A lot of people call this a yardstick, but this is actually a meter long. A yard would go to there. You ever see the difference between a yard and a meter? So that much. Put your fingers out like that. That much, okay? That's the difference between a yard and a meter. So a meter's pretty close. It's just a little bit bigger than a yard. Anyway, I got a meter stick. If I wanted to describe a plane, all right? So let's put this meter stick on the board right here. And I got a point here and a point here. That really does not describe this plane because I could have a plane like going through like this, right? That goes through those 2 points. I could have a plane that's going like sideways like this through those 2 points. Okay, you need the third point to really describe this plane, this wall right here. So I could have, let's put this, I could have a point right here. I could have a point right there. But look, that would just make a line, wouldn't it? All right, I need a third point. So that third point on the board, that makes this board that plane. Does that make sense? So you need the third point to represent any plane. So you can't just use 2, you got to have 3. Make sense? All right, so we have 3 points right here, so that makes up a plane. So we don't have like a fancy symbol like right here for a plane. We actually just write the word plane. So you could call this 2 different things. You could call it plane K. If you use the lowercase up in one of the corners, that'd be fine. But what if they didn't give you that? What if they just gave you 3 points on the plane? Then you would call it plane. And it doesn't matter what order you put them in. It makes no difference whatsoever. All right? Let's just go FGH. There's no fancy symbol. You just write the word plane in front of any 3 letters. If I had 5 letters on that plane, would you use all 5? No, you just use how many? Just 3, exactly. All right? It's pretty easy so far, isn't it? Yeah. But that's super important, I'm telling you. I mean, what I'm telling you right now, I'm not just saying that because I'm a math teacher. I'm saying it because you're going to use that stuff over and over and over again all year long. All right? So it's new to you now, but pretty soon it'll be old hat. You'll just be so used to it, you won't even have to think about it anymore. All right, let's do some actual definitions. This lesson was undefined terms, which we just finished doing, point, line, and plane. Oh, remember I said something about a quiz and a test? This is actually going to be number 1 on the quiz. All right, I'm going to say list the 3 undefined terms. And what are you going to write? Point, line, plane. Okay, that's a question. That's the question number 1 on the first quiz that I'm going to give you in here, all right? And it's also the first question on the test that I'm going to give you, all right? There's no definitions for it, but we use it so often, I just want you to know what they are, okay? Point, line, and plane. Well, that was nice of me, wasn't it? Giving out test problems right away, first day of school. Who does that? Me, I do, all right? So here we go. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about some definitions. Let's go back to weights. So let's actually do some definitions. Now, I am not going to have you memorize them. You're not going to have to memorize a whole bunch of definitions and write them down on a quiz or a test or anything like that. I just want you to know what they are. I'm going to read them off to you. I just don't have enough time to write everything down. So I'll write what the words are, then I'll read the definition. And I'm getting these right from the book, so you could always look in the book. So what is a collinear point? And I'll draw a little picture to describe what they are, okay? Okay, a collinear point, or collinear points, I should say, because it's more than one. Collinear points are points that lie on the same line, all right? So write that down. There's the word, put points that lie on the same line. All right? And I've already shown you some collinear points already today, but I'll do some more. All right, there's a line. It's got arrows on both ends. Collinear means the points do what? They lie where? On the same line. So I could have a point right here and a point right here. We'll call this, we'll just go AB again. So points A and B would be considered what kind of points? Collinear, okay? Collinear. That word linear, the word linear has got another line in there. This is last year, and a kid said, I said, what other word is inside linear? And they're like, ear. I'm like, yeah, that is true. You do have ear in there, but that's not the word I was looking for. What kind of geometry thing is in that word collinear, or in linear? Line, okay? A line is in there, okay? So it means, means with, means they're both on the same line is basically what it means. What if you had a point out here? Are points A, B, and C collinear? No. Now, A and B are collinear, right? But A, B, and C are not collinear because all 3 do not lie on the same line. But some people might say, well, Mr. Hamrick, what if I put a line like this? Well, still, all 3 are not collinear. A and C are now collinear, aren't they? All right? But B and C are not collinear, so all 3 points are not collinear. So we would say that A, B, and C are non-collinear. All right, so let's write that down. I think it's 2 words. I think there's a dash in between them. Is it 1 word? In the book, it's 1 word? Okay. So non-collinear. That just means the points don't lie on the same line, okay? So if I talk about points A, B, and C, they are non-collinear. If I talk about points A and B, they are collinear. In this new situation that I just drew, A and C would also be collinear, wouldn't they? All right? And you'll be doing that a little bit. All right? And here's another word, concurrent lines. Concurrent. You're going to be asked about these as well. Concurrent lines, you can write the definition down. I'm not going to write it down. Concurrent lines are lines whose intersection is a single point. It's basically two lines that intersect in a single point. Well, any two lines that intersect will always intersect at just one single point, but not every two lines intersect each other, do they? Here's two lines. I didn't put the arrows. I should put the arrows on there, but I'm running out of time. So, but here's two lines. They intersect. What do you think that means? Intersect each other. You come to an intersection. The two roads do what? They cross each other. Exactly right. They cross each other, and when they're lines, they cross each other right there. We call that the point, what do you think, of what? Intersection. Okay? That's why when you come to a light and there's another road, we call that the intersection. All right? Because that's where the two lines cross each other. Okay? Did you know that? Oh, wow. I like to see the light bulb come up. I think I actually saw a light bulb on top of your head. All right? So that's the point of intersection. All right? That's why they call it an intersection on the roads. What kind of lines would not have a point of intersection? I mean, it seems like every time you'd have two lines, they'd eventually intersect each other. Very good. See, you guys know some geometry already, don't you? So let's do that. I'm going to copy and paste it so it's the same angle. So I copied and pasted it. They're going the exact same angle. Will they ever touch each other? Will they ever intersect each other? No. So we call these what? Parallel. And that's a little bit later on in my notes, but I think it's a good place to talk about it. Okay, these two lines would be parallel lines. And we have a little symbol for that. All right, we put little arrows inside of it. Now the arrows on the ends, what do they represent? That it's a line that it keeps on going infinitely, correct? But these arrows right there, if I put these arrows, I'll call this line A and call this line B. I think I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but this is exciting stuff for me, so I'm gonna keep on going. So these two lines, they don't intersect each other. They're parallel, which these two little arrows in the middle, that's what that means. It means they are parallel to each other. So I could write it like this. I could say A is parallel, or line A is parallel to line B. We have a symbol for parallel. Parallel are just two up and down lines like that, okay? So what does this mean? This means line A is what? Parallel to line B, all right? Geometry has its own language. It really does. And it's got its own symbols, all kinds of stuff like that. So if you learn the symbols, learn the language, it really helps out a lot. Yes, sir? No, you wouldn't. Not on top of this. So when you do parallel, they're just two lines with no arrows on it, okay? Good question. Because we had the lines. Remember, we did the line thing. Now, when you say line A, you don't put it like an arrow on top of A, right? If you just use a single lowercase letter, you just put the lowercase a there, and that all automatically just means line A. We good? All right. Well, I don't know. Yeah, you guys are doing good, aren't you? Do you mind if we finish it up today? Let's try to finish it up. Is that all right? All right. So let's go through some more definitions. We did that. Okay, let's do some more. Another one. They're kind of similar. The next two are kind of similar to what we just did. Oh, I should have done an example. Let's do an example first. Let's do that first before we get to the next thing. Because this is pretty good. Because I'm looking at my notes. I'm like, oh, I've seen that on a quiz before or on a test. So it might be good to do this example. Look at that crazy thing. It's about the least of the crazy things you're going to see in here, okay? The different shapes and all that kind of thing. So we'll call this line. Now, again, these are lines. Technically, they should have arrows on the ends, but I'm a little lazy, so I'm just not putting the arrows on there. Is that all right with you? Mm-hmm. All right, so that's a lowercase k. This is a lowercase l. This is a capital R. Now, if I just put an R right there and I don't actually put a dot, where do you think that R is? R is a point, right? Where do you think the point is? Do you think it's like right here? It's the intersection, right? It's the intersection. So the R would be right there. A lot of times they don't actually put the dot there, but if there is two lines intersecting, if there are two lines intersecting, that means that's point R. Does that make sense? It's got to be really close to it. It can't be like way out here. You wouldn't put the R way out here. All right, you'd put it super close to it. Really, that's the only point that it could be. All right, I'm going to put an S right there. You know what point is point S, don't you? It's right there where it intersects. Very good. Now, if they put it somewhere in the middle, they will put a dot. They'll put a V right there, put a T right there. We'll call this line M. We'll call this line N. And I think that's it. All right, so the question, this is example 2, it's in the book. It says, name 3 collinear points. So we'll call that A. Name 3 collinear. Again, let's look back on our definition of collinear. What does that mean? They all lie where? On the same line, okay? Give me 3 points that all lie on the same exact line. What do you think? Go ahead, Cameron. T, V, and S. Very good. They all lie on the same line. What about R, T, and V? Nope. RT lie on the same line, TV lie on the same line, but not all 3 of them. The only place where where you get 3 points that are collinear would be T, V, and S. So name 3 collinear points. Sometimes I shorthand points PTS like that. So it would be just T, put a comma, V, comma, S. You don't have to write the word point in front of it because automatically when you see a single capital letter, what is it always going to be? It's going to be a point. So you don't have to put the word point in front of it. Yes?
I thought it was like name 3 separate collinear points. So like one collinear, like one set of collinear points.
Well, we only have one set of collinear points here.
I thought it meant like it was one of the 3 sets of collinear points. Like,
but again, there are not 3 sets of collinear points. There's only one set of collinear points. T, V, and S are the only ones that lie on the same line. Show me 3 other points that all lie on the same exact line.
I wasn't saying there was any others of those. I was just confused on that because I thought it meant, you know how R and S is one collinear point? Like,
Well, they're 2.
I know it's 2.
R and S are 2 collinear points.
But I thought they meant like as a set, it's one collinear point. Like, those...
Well, now you know though, right? Now you're straight.
I know, but
Okay.
I know what I'm trying to say. I just don't know.
No, that's all right. But what you were saying, like a set, there's only one set of 3 collinear points. It's TV. And do you have to put it in that order? No, you could go V, T, and S, V, S, T. It doesn't make any difference. Okay, but these are your only 3. You want to see 3 points that all 3 of them have to lie on the same line. Now there may be situations like right here. Maybe we'll put like a W right there. All right. Now you do have 2 sets, right? Now you have 2 possibilities for an answer. So you got the T, V, and S. What else do you have? The R, W, S, right? Do you see how all 3 of those lie on that line right there? But they didn't have that in there, so we're not going to use that. Does that help a little bit? Okay. What's that? I erased it. I just stuck it in there just to say if it was there. All right, let's do 3 non-collinears. So part B is 3 non-collinear points. And we just list them. All right. You got several possibilities here, don't you? Okay, not just one. So what could you write? Say it again. Well, K, L, and M aren't points. N's not a point. What are they? What's K, L, M, and N? They're lines, right? They're lowercase letters. Okay, they're lines. So we can't use those. We can only use the points, which are the capital letters. Okay, 3 non-collinear points. So you need 3 things. T, S, and R? Yeah, T, S, and R. Do you see that? They do not all lie on the same line. So you could do that. You could go T, S, and R. Give me something else. There's several different answers for this. Well, there's no W. I took the W out. TV, TRV. All right, you could go TRV. There are 3 points that don't lie on the same line. That's all they're looking for. Okay? So would you say TVR? TRV? Doesn't matter. Give me another one. NTS? Well, you can't use N. Why not? Because it's a line. It's not a point. We can only use the capital letters. SVR? S, V, and R. Did we use that yet? No, we haven't used it yet. Yeah. S, V, and R. That's good. All right, that's enough of that. You get the idea, don't you? All right, so there probably are more combinations, but you can use any of those. Either one of those would be a right answer. All right, that's a pain for me because a lot of times you might get more than one answer, and I gotta look at it, and I gotta write all the possible answers and then look at it. But that's fine, no biggie. All right, one more part. Part C would be name 3 concurrent lines. 3 concurrent, and you got to know what concurrent means. You won't be able to do this. It's not hard once you know what the word means. 3 concurrent lines. What does that word mean? It means 3 lines that do what? That intersect at a common point, okay? At a single point, right? Common, single, same thing, okay? So I want to look for 3 lines. Well, I got a bunch of lines. I got lines what? K, I got line L, M, and N. I want to find 3 lines that all intersect at the same point, at one point. What do you think? Well, 3 lines. You said T? Okay, T is where they intersect. Okay, you are right on that, but that's not what they're asking. They're not asking where do they intersect. They're asking for actually the 3 lines themselves. Okay. K, L, and N. Very good. So we would say line K, we just put K, and then line L and line N. And those are the only ones. Isn't that that's the only place where 3 lines intersect, isn't it? All right, so you got this up and down line, you got this one that goes across, you got this diagonal one. What about right here? They intersect here. It's only two lines. Right, it's only 2 lines that intersect there. They're asking for how many? 3 of them, okay? So if they said name 2 concurrent lines, yeah, you could say line what? L and M, right? Or right here, there's 2 concurrent lines, right? They intersect K and M. But there's only one place in this diagram where they intersect, where 3 lines intersect at one point. And that would be K, that would be L, and that would be N right there. Make sense? All right, good. Yeah, I think I'll stop there. I'm not going to keep going. Well, that was fun, wasn't it? Geometry, all right, it's not so bad. Little shapes and stuff. We will be doing some math eventually, all right? We're going to do a lot of algebra, a lot of stuff like that. But we got to get our terms down. We got to get our symbols down. We got to know what's going on. So I'll finish tomorrow, but I will show you what the homework is. You don't have to do it tonight. I'm not going to collect it tomorrow, but it might be a good idea to get started on it. All right? Get to the point where you recognize the words, right? And when they start giving you stuff that you don't know, then you're like, okay, we haven't got there just yet. But let me give it to you. You're always going to write the section number on your homework, okay? Always write the section number on your homework. You could put the page number and all that kind of good stuff, but I'm not really looking for the page numbers on your homework. If you want to write them in there, it's perfectly fine. And I am going to eventually give you 1 to 18. I'm not sure, I don't have my book in front of me, so I'm not sure like how far this thing, got, but there might be a problem that kind of looks like that in there, but you're eventually going to do 1 through 18. So we have 10 minutes, all right, because we got that study time afterward. So I found out yesterday they are not ringing a bell. We are not going to the bathroom between 8th period and the study period, okay? It's just going to run all the way through. But I'll do my best to try to give you some time because, it's a long class. It'd be an hour and a 5-minute class. So I will try to keep it about 2:45, 2:50, all right, and then let you work on it. Yes, ma'am. It won't be due till, what's today, Wednesday, Thursday, probably Friday, all right, because I'll officially assign this tomorrow. So this is not officially assigned, but But I would get started on it. Gives you less to do tomorrow when I really assign it. Wouldn't you agree? All right. So you got 10 minutes. So look at it, see what you can do. If you have any problems, I'll walk around, help you out a little bit. No. No. What did I say? I made a big deal about it yesterday. Somebody tell him. Where are you doing your homework? Loose leaf. Absolutely not in a composition book. Okay? Now, you can do it in a spiral notebook if you have the perforation and you give me a nice clean edge. You cannot get a clean edge out of a composition book. Okay? Loose leaf notebook paper. That's what I wanted on. Okay? Everybody should get loose leaf notebook paper. Got it? So make sure the section number, make sure your first and last name is on it. Don't just put your first name. So first and last name. Make sure it's done in pencil. Remember all the stuff we talked about yesterday? Make sure you have the section number, first and last name, pencil, and make sure I get a clean edge to your homework. Once you get used to it, you won't even think about it a second time. But I want you to make sure that you do it that way. Everybody good? Okay.